A homeless black boy risks his life to save a white toddler from an oncoming bus, but the millionaire's reaction the next day changes everything. How will the boy's life be transformed after this heroic act? A crowded downtown street in Atlanta, Georgia, is alive with the sounds of honking cars, hurried footsteps, and the occasional shout of a street vendor advertising their goods. The scent of freshly baked bread drifts from a nearby bakery, mixing with the usual city smells of gasoline and pavement. Pedestrians rush past, caught up in their own worlds, barely noticing the small figure sitting on the sidewalk. Jamal, an 11-year-old black boy, has been homeless since losing his mother a year ago. He survives by collecting bottles, doing small jobs, and hoping that maybe, just maybe, someone will spare him some food. His world is one of survival, of blending into the background, of going unseen. Today is no different. He sits against the brick wall of the bakery, knees drawn up, watching people pass by, his stomach tight with hunger. Then something catches his eye. A small white toddler, barely 2 years old, stumbles onto the road. The child's tiny legs wobble as they wander away from the curb, unaware of the danger ahead. Jamal's eyes widen, his pulse quickening. The child is alone, no hand holding theirs, no parent rushing after them, just a small figure stepping into chaos. Jamal's heart stops. At that exact moment, the roar of a bus engine fills the air. A city bus is speeding down the road, its massive front barreling toward the child. The driver doesn't see them. The people on the sidewalk don't notice. No one else realizes what is about to happen. The child is going to die if someone doesn't act. Now! Jamal doesn't hesitate. He throws down the bag of bottles and leaps to his feet. His body moves on instinct, pushing past pedestrians who barely register his existence. His legs burn as he sprints forward, every second stretching impossibly long. The rush of wind from passing cars whips at his face, but he doesn't stop. He can't. The toddler takes another unsteady step. The bus is almost there. Jamal lunges, arms outstretched, reaching for the child just as Jamal's heart stops. The child is going to die if someone doesn't act. Now! Have you ever had to act fast in an emergency? Tell us your story. Where are you watching from, and what time is it? Jamal doesn't hesitate. He runs. His feet pound against the pavement, his breath quick and shallow, as adrenaline surges through his small frame. The world around him blurs, the sound of honking cars and chattering pedestrians fading into a distant hum. All that matters is reaching the child in time. The toddler, giggling, doesn't realize the danger. Their tiny hands wave in the air as if they are playing a game, unaware of the deadly force speeding toward them. The bus driver honks loudly, slamming on the brakes, but Jamal knows it's too late. The sheer size and momentum of the vehicle make stopping impossible within seconds. Jamal pushes his body forward, his legs straining as he closes the distance. His mind screams at him to move faster, faster, faster. The bus is almost there. The child is still standing, oblivious, smiling up at the blaring horn, as if it's just another city noise. At the last second, Jamal lunges forward, pushing the child out of the way. His arms stretch out, his palms pressing against the toddler's tiny shoulders as he shoves them toward safety. The force of the push sends Jamal off balance, his body twisting as the bus's powerful gust of wind slams into him. The bus screeches to a halt, the tires screaming against the pavement. The massive vehicle stops just inches from Jamal, who falls hard onto the concrete. A sharp pain shoots through his arms as he scrapes against the rough surface, the impact rattling his bones. His chest rises and falls rapidly as he struggles to catch his breath. People gasp. Someone screams. Finally, the world around him notices what just happened. The crowd that had ignored him moments before now rushes forward. A woman claps a hand over her mouth in shock. A man drops his coffee cup, its contents splattering onto the ground, forgotten. Jamal blinks up at the sky, his vision slightly blurred. His knees are scraped, his clothes torn, but none of it matters. He forces himself to sit up, his hands shaking as he turns toward the child. The toddler, now safely on the sidewalk, blinks in confusion. A passerby scoops them up, murmuring reassurances, but Jamal doesn't hear the words. He exhales, relief flooding his chest. For the first time in a long while, people are looking at him, really looking. Not through him, not past him, but at him. But he doesn't care about the stares or the whispers. He only cares that the child is safe. Jamal's knees are scraped, his clothes torn, but the toddler is safe. Would you risk your life to save a stranger? Let's discuss. The toddler's mother, a wealthy white woman, rushes over screaming. Her designer heels click sharply against the pavement as she pushes through the crowd, her face contorted with panic. The moment she lays eyes on her child, she lets out a sob, scooping them into her arms and holding them so tightly, it's as if she's afraid they'll disappear. "Oh, my God, my baby!" she cries, rocking the toddler back and forth. The child, still confused, simply clings to her, their tiny fingers gripping her expensive coat. The crowd murmurs around them, some people shaking their heads in shock, others whispering among themselves. But then, the woman's frantic eyes land on Jamal. She freezes. Jamal, still on the ground, is bruised, dirty, and breathing heavily. His scraped hands press against the rough pavement as he struggles to sit up. His body aches from the fall, but he doesn't care. He looks at the woman, expecting relief, gratitude, something. Instead, her expression twists into something colder, something uglier. "Did you touch my child?" she shouts, her voice shrill with accusation. Jamal's breath catches in his throat. The words hit harder than the pavement beneath him. His heart, which had been pounding with adrenaline just moments ago, now sinks in his chest. He doesn't understand. He saved her child. He risked his life. And yet, instead of gratitude, she looks at him with suspicion, with fear. The crowd, instead of cheering for Jamal, watches silently. Their gazes shift between the wealthy woman and the homeless boy, their eyes filled with uncertainty. No one steps forward. No one defends him. The weight of their silence presses down on him, making him feel smaller, as if his presence alone is the problem. He wants to explain, to say something, anything, but no words come out. Then, the low hum of an approaching engine draws everyone's attention. A sleek, black limousine glides to a stop at the curb. The tinted windows reflect the chaos of the moment, concealing whoever is inside. The driver steps out first, swiftly opening the back door. A tall, gray-haired man in a designer suit steps out. Mr. Langston, the toddler's father. His posture is rigid, his face unreadable as he surveys the scene. His expensive shoes barely make a sound as he steps onto the pavement, his gaze locking onto Jamal. Have you ever done something good, only to be met with doubt? Let's talk about it. Mr. Langston glares at Jamal. His sharp, calculating eyes scan the boy from head to toe, taking in the dirt-streaked face, the torn clothes, the scraped hands. His lips press into a thin line, the tension in his expression making it clear that he sees Jamal not as a hero, but as something else entirely. Who is this boy? What is he doing near my child? His voice is deep, controlled, but the suspicion beneath it is unmistakable. The crowd shifts, watching, waiting. No one speaks up for Jamal. Jamal, still catching his breath, tries to explain. I saved him." The words come out in a rush, barely above a whisper. His chest rises and falls rapidly, the weight of everything pressing down on him. He glances around, searching for someone, anyone, who saw what really happened, who can tell them the truth. The mother scoffs, still clutching her toddler tightly. "Or maybe you were trying to take him." Her voice is sharp, filled with the same distrust that laces her husband's words. The accusation stings, cutting deeper than any of his bruises. Jamal's stomach twists. He looks at the child who is now resting against his mother's shoulder, completely unaware of the growing hostility around them. The same child he risked his life for. The same child who, just minutes ago, was seconds away from death. He wants to scream, to plead, to tell them how he had no reason to hurt the little boy, only to save him. But he knows the truth. He knows what people see when they look at him. The crowd murmurs, unsure. A homeless black boy and a rich white toddler. Who would they believe? Their eyes flicker between Jamal and the wealthy couple. Hesitation fills the air like a heavy fog, thick with uncertainty. No one steps forward. No one defends him. The silence cuts through him like a blade. His body tenses, fight-or-flight instincts kicking in. Run or stay. Defend himself or stay silent. He doesn't know what the right answer is. He doesn't know if there even is one. Police sirens wail in the distance. Jamal's stomach twists. He knows what happens next. Why do some people assume the worst about others? Share your thoughts. Before the police arrive, a store clerk rushes forward. His voice cuts through the thick tension in the air, desperate and firm. "Wait! I saw the whole thing. This boy saved your child's life." The words hang in the air for a moment, sinking into the crowd like a sudden shift in the wind. The crowd's whispers turn to shock. People glance at each other, murmuring as the story flips instantly. Just seconds ago, suspicion had clouded their judgment, but now their expressions shift from doubt to realization. A few step forward, nodding in agreement, recalling the moment Jamal lunged into the street, risking his life for a child that wasn't his own. Mr. Langston's face changes. His cold, guarded expression falters as he turns his full attention to Jamal. The sharp glare in his eyes softens slightly, and his brows draw together, not in anger, but in something else, something closer to disbelief. He looks at the dirt-streaked boy in front of him, seeing him in a new light. Slowly, his posture shifts from rigid authority to something resembling contemplation. Jamal stays still, his heart still pounding, his breath uneven. He wants to believe that this moment will make a difference, that the truth will be enough. But a small voice in his head warns him that things don't change that easily, that people like Mr. Langston don't suddenly see kids like him differently. After a long pause, Mr. Langston finally speaks. His voice is measured but firm. "Come with me, boy." The statement isn't a question, but it isn't quite a command either. Jamal hesitates. Was this another trick? His fingers twitch at his sides, his instincts screaming at him to be careful. The police sirens are still growing louder, the flashing lights reflecting off the glass buildings around them. He glances toward the crowd, but no one says anything. All eyes are on him now, waiting, watching. The store clerk places a hand on Jamal's shoulder, a quiet reassurance. "You should go," he whispers. "I think this might be something good." Jamal swallows hard, unsure of what to believe. But as he meets Mr. Langston's eyes, he sees something different there, something he never expected. A shift, a question, and maybe, just maybe, the start of something new. Mr. Langston's face changes. He stares at Jamal, realizing the truth. What do you think is going to happen next? Drop your predictions. The next day, Jamal is standing inside a mansion, Mr. Langston's home. The ceilings stretch high above him, chandeliers casting golden light over the grand space. The walls are lined with expensive paintings, polished floors gleaming beneath his worn-out sneakers. He has never seen anything like this. His entire world has been cold streets and empty pockets, but now he is here, surrounded by a life he never imagined. Cameras flash. Reporters are everywhere. The sound of clicking shutters fills the air, voices murmuring as journalists scribble down notes. The crowd watches with eager curiosity, their eyes darting between the wealthy businessman and the homeless boy standing beside him. They all want to know why he's here, what's about to happen. Mr. Langston stands beside Jamal, placing a hand on his shoulder. The weight of it is unexpected, grounding, yet Jamal tenses, unsure of what it means. The same man who had doubted him just a day ago now stands before an audience, ready to speak on his behalf. Jamal's stomach knots as he waits. "This young man saved my son's life," Mr. Langston says, his deep voice carrying across the room. "I misjudged him, and for his bravery, I want to change his life." The murmurs in the crowd fade as all attention falls on him. Even the cameras seem to pause, waiting for his next words. The room goes silent as he pulls out a check. $80,000. The numbers are clear, bold, almost unreal. Jamal's eyes widen. He has never seen this much money in his life. The paper, so thin and fragile, holds more wealth than he has ever dared to dream of. His hands shake slightly as he stares at it, his heart pounding in his chest. "This is for you, Jamal," Mr. Langston continues. "A fresh start, a chance to build a future." Jamal's throat tightens. A reward, a way out. But something about it feels overwhelming. His mind races. What does this mean? Is it really his? Could money fix everything? His grandmother always told him that not all kindness comes without a cost. He swallows hard, glancing up at Mr. Langston. He sees expectation in the man's face, but also something else, something real, gratitude, understanding, maybe even a little regret. Jamal's fingers twitch at his sides. He has a choice to make. Jamal's eyes widen. He has never seen this much money in his life. Would you accept the reward or ask for something else? Let's discuss. Jamal doesn't take the money for himself. He asks for something bigger. The room falls silent as he looks up at Mr. Langston, his voice steady, despite the weight of his words. "I don't need the money," he says, his fingers tightening at his sides. "I need a home. For me and my grandparents. A place where we don't have to be afraid. And I want to go to school." The crowd murmurs in surprise, cameras flashing rapidly as reporters scribble down his words. Mr. Langston's brows lift slightly, and for a moment, he says nothing. The man who once looked at Jamal with suspicion now studies him with something else. Respect. He exhales, then nods. Done. Moved by his humility, Mr. Langston agrees. Weeks later, Jamal moves into a safe home. The walls don't leak when it rains. There is food in the fridge. His grandparents no longer have to worry about where they will sleep. For the first time in a long time, Jamal doesn't wake up shivering from the cold. He wakes up to warmth, to security, to the knowledge that he finally has a place where he belongs. He starts school, nervous but excited. The halls are wider than any place he's ever been. The classrooms filled with students who have never known what it's like to go to bed hungry. It's different, but he's determined. He knows what it means to be given a chance, and he refuses to waste it. Mr. Langston changes too. The hardened businessman softens, checking in on Jamal, listening, learning. He begins to understand that wealth isn't just about money, it's about what you choose to do with it. He sees that kindness isn't a transaction, but something that can transform lives. And in helping Jamal, he finds himself changing in ways he never expected. One evening, Jamal sits on his new bed, staring at the ceiling. Everything is different now. His past, his struggles, the cold nights, all of it led him here. He exhales deeply, a small, knowing smile crossing his lips. "I thought I was just saving that child," he whispers. "But in the end, I saved myself too. A new home, a future, and a life forever changed." What's the biggest lesson from Jamal's story? Let's talk in the comments.